Good morning. It's Throwback Thursday again, and today we have another look at a facility from our county's history. Did you know that Drakesboro used to have a railroad depot? There isn't much information about the depot available in the books, documents, and maps in our archives, but we were able to determine that the railroad was built through Drakesboro in 1882 or around there on land that had been part of John R. Drake's farm. Drakesboro was not yet incorporated when the railroad was built. The town was still known as Ricedale at the time. It would not become incorporated as Drakesboro until a few years later in 1888. The railroad was operated by the Owensboro and Russellville Railroad Company, later a branch of the Louisville and Nashville or L&N Railroad, and the tracks ran alongside what is now Highway 431/70 just to the east of the road. The first trains began operating through the fledgling town of Drakesboro, then Ricedale, in 1884. Locals, as the trains on these tracks were called, arrived twice daily, an hour apart at noon and 1 p.m., with one train traveling north and the other traveling south. These trains were primarily used for carrying freight, but had a passenger car attached to transport travelers between Owensboro and Russellville. A rail depot was built in Drakesboro in 1903, also on Drake's property, near what is now the intersection of Highways 431 and 176. We've been unable to conclusively determine the exact location of that depot. Some old maps show the building south of Highway 176, but extra markings on those maps makes it difficult to say for sure, and more modern reports indicate that the location was north of the intersection, so we've been unable to find any proof of which location is accurate. If you know exactly where the building was located, please let us know. A previous depot may have also existed before the construction of the 1903 building, but we don't know for sure. The only evidence we have is a photo marked 1890s showing trains arriving at the depot, but the building shown in that photograph is different than the one shown in later photos. It is also possible that the building in that photo, although labeled as the depot, was in actuality Frank M. Rice's store, which was built in the vicinity of the railroad around the same time that the railroad was built. During that time period, buildings often served multiple purposes. Unfortunately, we've been unable to locate any records to determine which scenario is most likely, but we will continue to look for more on the topic and will update with any new information we find. The railroad remained in use in Drakesboro until 1941, and the last train, according to Paul Camplin's A New History of Muhlenberg County, traveled through town on February 5, 1941. The depot remained for another 30 years, but was itself torn down in 1972. That's all we have for this week's Throwback Thursday video. As I mentioned earlier, we don't have as much information about the Drakesboro depot as we would like, but there's always a possibility of that with the study of history. Some records simply don't exist anymore, or in some cases maybe never did. But we love to learn what we can about our county's history, so we continue our research. Thank you for joining us for today's video, and don't forget to tune in next week for another look at our past. Thanks for watching.